Nitzavim-Vayelech Shvi. So Moshe commands the Leviim, and he says, Lokayach HaSefer HaTorah Hazeh v'samta Moshe mitzad Aryeh. Take the Sefer Torah and put it next to the Aryeh. Moshe wrote, I think, 13 Sefer Torah in the last day. They put one in, they gave one to each Sheva, and then one that came next to the Aryeh. So I saw, I think in the Lev Aaron from the current, one of the current Satmar Rebbes, he says, Lokayach HaSefer HaTorah Hazeh, take a moshel, take a learning from this Sefer Torah. Why? The Kli Yakar, he says that the Leviim, they're Balei Yisurim. He says they were the smallest Levi, the Aryeh would, because they wouldn't, the Aryeh would, they would die. They would, if they weren't noig, since they carried the Aryeh, if they weren't noig the proper cover, they would die. It says, but also throughout the generations, also their Hashem took them to be mechaper for Klal Yisrael. They suffered for Klal Yisrael, Leviim. So it could be it's a remez to the Balei Yisurim. So the muster that of someone Chas v'Shalom who has Yisum should take is from the Sefer Torah, is that the Sfarim say that just like the Sefer Torah needs to be written on cloth, and the cloth needs to be set aside from the beginning. It's called Hazman, it has to be Mezuman. This is for Kedusha Sefer Torah. And then they ma'abed the cloth, and they stretch it, and they bang it, and they cut it, and they soak it, and they salt it, and they to process it. All has to be Lishma, L'Shem Shemayim, for the Kedusha of Sefer Torah. So that's for Torah Shebachsav. For Torah Shebal Peh, the cloth is the person's body. And Hashem is ma'abed the cloth, which is the person's body, and that's through Yisurim. It gets clapped and hacked and whatever it is. And also it says that a person has to accept the Yisurim the right way. That's also that's the Lishma. The Maral in Tiferes Yisrael, I think in Parak Samachas, he says, V'hasken atzm chalol my Torah, Mishnah Perkei Avos. V'hasken atzm, just like when you set aside the cloth, you have to set aside the Kedusha Sefer Torah, so too. V'hasken atzm chalol, you don't just sit down and learn. It comes with, you have to prepare, set it aside. It should be the Kedusha's Torah, and so on. So a person could take a mashal if he's wondering, it seems like these Yisurim, for what purpose are they? But you should know that it's Hashem working with him. He's making him a keli, a vessel for Kedusha and the Isis of the Sefer Torah of Torah Shebal Peh. Pasuk of Zion, Ki anochi yidati es mericha v'zarbecha akosha, gehein b'ydeni chayim ochem mamrim hayisem im Hashem. If Tzaddik says, Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Yidden, from the day I knew you, you're rebellious with Hashem. It should say neged Hashem, against Hashem. What does it mean im Hashem? So he says that a Yid is always connected to Hashem, so much so that he can never even do an Avera fully. They say Reb Zusha, he saw in Shemayim that all the bad malachim that were created from the Averis of Yidden, he never saw a full malach. The one was missing eyes, one was missing a hand, one was missing feet. Why? Because when the Yid was doing an Avera, even when he fell to the lowest level, he knew that he was going against Hashem's will, and it was eating him up, and he gave a krecht, and he said he couldn't fully enjoy, he couldn't fully benefit. It says, Mamim hayisem im Hashem, even when you were rebellious, it was im Hashem. You never totally disconnected from Hashem. You can tell Hashem, Hisrachakti, Avaloi Hisnatakti. I distanced myself, but I never severed the connection. The continues the Karasa, V'sarta min haderech asher tzivisi eschem, the Karasa eschem hara ba'achros hayom. The Sfarim say that Klal Yisrael in the Ikvus of the Mashiach, which is our generation, the Moshe says, I'm going to tell you everything that's going to befall you in the end of days. So why does it say befall you? It should say befall your children, your grandchildren. So the answer is that's because the Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them that Dor Hadeya, his generation, is going to come back in the end of days, and everything that he's going to say now in Parsha of Hazinu is going to befall them when they come back in the end of days. I wanted to use this to answer up maybe a shtickle question. There in Halacha, in Shulchan Aruch, it says that really a woman on the night of Pesach doesn't have to do Heseba, she doesn't have to lean. Unless she's a Isha Chashuva. An Isha Chashuva, she's a Chashuva, she has to lean. So the Ramah says, V'hanoshim shalanu Chashuva, saying, our women are Chashuv and they all lean. It's like, it's interesting. What do you mean? If the halacha was they don't have to lean, what happened in the Ramah's times all of a sudden that all the women became Chashuvas? So I was thinking to answer, the Arizal says that the generation of Ikvus, the Tkufa of Ikvus of the Mashiach started already in his generation, whatever, 400 something years ago. And he says that if you look and you pay attention, you'll see that B'derech Klal, Talmidei Chachamim, their wives rule over them. They're not the men of the house, the women are the men of the house. He says the reason why that is because we are the Gulim of the Dor HaMidbar. And by the Egel, either they took part, the men took part in the Egel, not the women, or they didn't protest when they should have protested, and the women were innocent. So now, when they came back now in the end of days, the women have a certain chashivas over the men. That's why you find these Talmidei Chachamim that the women rule over them. So now, if you look at chronological generational order, that the Ramah and the Arizal were at the same Kufa. So because the Arizal says that his generation is the beginning of the Mashiach, and that's the beginning of when the neshamas of the Dor Midbar are coming back down. So that's why they're Ramah Paskin, and then Hanoshim Shalanu Chashuvais, they're all Chashuvais because they're also from the Dor Midbar, and they didn't partake in the Egel like we did. So Memela, they have the mitzvah of Seba, and that takes us to Hazinu.